Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ian McLean Above and Beyond, my first attempt at a Tuesday night podcast. And if you would like to join me on the podcast, I'm going to put a link in the comments, and you'll be able to use that link, and it'll put you backstage. So you're not on right away. You don't have to worry about that. You can go ahead and use that link, though, and like I said, it'll put you backstage. It'll bring you on one at a time if you'd like to have a little chat about something. So I know that a good friend of mine, Tony Ledgem Bones, is actually watching. And probably if he decides to join us, we'll be able to have a chat. I've had some interesting things happen on the channel over the past week. Managed to conduct 2 interviews with some ex-fighter pilots and share some of their background and some of the history that they had in their service in the Royal Canadian Air Force. Tony was the first to volunteer to do an interview, and I thought it went extremely well. He was kind enough to share his background and his career. And then today, just this afternoon, Dan McWilliams decided to join me in an interview, and we went ahead and had a good discussion for about 10 minutes or so. So I'm just waiting to see whether or not Tony's going to be successful in clicking this link, and we'll see if anybody else would like to join us here on the discussion. But the link is alive now, and if you just put that link, it'll put you backstage, and you can join me here on the podcast. I'm really interested in going forward on trying to host a podcast on Tuesday evenings at 7 o'clock. I think it would be a great forum for guys that have served in the military that want to just get together and have a chat about something, albeit recorded for other people to hear. So we may have to temper the discussion a little bit. But at the same time, it's also a good place for people to come and ask some questions of retired fighter pilots. So I see Bones has managed to click through. It looks like he's out in his backyard. I'll bring him onto the stage, and he and I can have a quick chat, and we'll see if anybody else would like to join us. So Bones, I'll welcome you to the channel again. How you doing?
Hey, great. I just told you I was watching your interview with Alf.
Oh yeah.
Of course,
What did you think?
oh, it was awesome. And, you know, he and I go back a long way. And even beyond our military careers, I ran into him in Bagotville when he was running the simulator.
Yeah. I found his career fascinating, as I did yours. It's really interesting when the guys go into their, all of the various things that they've done, and you start talking about the different airplanes. And then what I find happens is different names come up, and different individuals that you haven't thought about for a few years, their names pop up. So let me put you on the spot. F-35 or Gripen? What do you think?
Oh, definitely F-35.
Yeah. Really? What's your reasons behind that?
Many reasons. So probably the biggest one is, you know, I worked in the Canadian NORAD region headquarters in North Bay. I realize how beholden we are to the Americans for our sovereignty and our defense.
Yeah.
Don't piss them off. You know, if we buy the Gripen, it's going to piss them off. I mean, the Gripen, it's a very good 4th generation fighter airplane, but it does not integrate well with NORAD, and that's really what it's all about. You know, it's not about Canada is no longer an expeditionary force, so we have to concentrate on continental defense, and we need to integrate as well as we can with NORAD. So, very simple. Yeah.
Are you concerned at all about the things you hear in the press in the future that the Americans might withhold upgrades at all? Does that concern you?
Well, and that's a very real concern, because our relationship has deteriorated very rapidly with the Americans, you know, with the whole elbows up campaign and all that kind of stuff. And we've had security leaks too.
Yeah.
So I totally understand their reticence for sharing everything with us. But the bottom line, I get back to NORAD. The Americans rely on us as we rely on them. So we are their buffer zone and they need to trust us. And they have always trusted us. They have given us the best technology in the past, especially with the F-18, as you know.
Yeah.
We are a tier 1 operator on the F-18. So there are some concerns about it, but not enough to change my mind. And I'll give you another thing, Ian. The thing about the F-35 is it's not just a great fighter and its stealth. It has this huge communications ability, and that's going to become very important with loyal wingmen. Okay, so you have to have a forward operator for the loyal wingman unmanned drones to go out there and prosecute the defense or the offense, whichever it may be.
Yeah, I keep hearing things about sensor fusion and how the F-35 is a great sensor fusion platform. But to play devil's advocate now, what about the maintenance issues and how many hours of maintenance it takes for one flying hour? I'll just mention again, because I noticed some other folks have joined. If you'd like to join me on the channel, there's a link there, and you can click on it. It'll take you to the backstage region of StreamYard, and then I can bring you live, and you can join the discussion live. You just need your camera and your mic, and you can chat just like Tony and I are right now. So back to the question, Bones, what do you think about the serviceability issues? Does that concern you at all?
Absolutely, it does. And especially with the low number of aircraft that we're going to get.
Yeah.
We need to be able to cover our NORAD commitment. And I mean, you were a NORAD pilot, when you're on 425 and at 441.
Yeah.
And you know how difficult it is to do that. Back in the days when we had reasonable serviceability with the Hornets. Well,
I remember that always being a concern. I remember there were days in Baggaville where you get down to your last 3 or 4 airplanes, and guess what? They were in the queue.
Absolutely.
And so if you've only got a small number of F-35s, how do you make sure you've got that number of aircraft available?
And we know that there's an issue with the F-35 mission capable rate. This is not a secret.
Yeah.
So it is a very difficult airplane to operate, but it's difficult to operate at the tier 1 level of low observable. Okay, so if you're going to prosecute an attack into enemy territory, it has to be tier 1. But as soon as you have a panel that's slightly ajar or missing some radar absorbent material, it becomes tier 2. So that's the second line of defense. Well, for NORAD, you don't need tier 1.
No.
Yeah.
No. You can get by.
So the standards will be different for us in Canada.
Yeah, I can see that. I've just noticed a question from Andrew Smith in Manitoba, presumably. Was the Super Hornet ever on the table? Would it have been easier to transition into an upgraded version of what we already have? So my take on that is I know Ricardo Traven pretty well.
Yeah, so do I.
Ricardo was I think, if I'm not mistaken, he made it to be promoted to the lead test pilot on the Super Hornet. And the Super Hornet was on the table for the longest time. If you talk to Billy Flynn and Ricardo Traven together at one point, you'd have gotten the varying views from each side of the argument and which way we should go. But again, the Super Hornet, I don't know, Bones, I would still classify it as a Cat 4 fighter as opposed to Cat 5. It doesn't have the same sensor fusion necessarily as the F-35. At least I don't think it does. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of those. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a great question because both Ricardo and Billy Flynn are great old-time friends of mine. And
same here.
And I had a 3-way conversation with them, via text or whatever. But they're very much aligned, actually. And I mean, Billy Flynn loves the Hornet.
Yeah.
Now he's flown a lot of other aircraft since then, and the F-16 is an incredible platform as well. But the thing is that for Canada, the Super Hornet would have been fantastic. And guess which smaller country adopted the Super Hornet and the F-35? It's Australia. Yeah, and they have 3/4 of the GDP of Canada. So how could they do that and Canada can't do it?
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Yeah? I think
so. I'll just give you another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Guess what the great capability for Canada would be with a Super Hornet? It can be a high-speed, high QRA adaptable air-to-air refueler. So when you need to go from Bagotville up to Iqaluit, you need a tanker in order to do anything. Well, why not have a couple of Super Hornet tankers to accompany the Hornets to get up there and establish the presence while you're waiting for the C-130 whenever it arrives to refuel. So it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So what the point I'm trying to make is, don't even listen about the Gripen fanboys. If anything, if we're going to have a mixed fleet, it should be the F-35 and the Super Hornet. And here's another problem: the F-35s we're looking at are the A models, which don't have the probe and drogue capability. But if we bought the C model, which actually has extended capabilities from the A model, that would be ideal for Canada.
Yeah, so you're telling me the F-35s we're going to get don't have probe and drogue?
No.
Wow.
So the B and the C, because that's the Marine and the U.S. Navy, they have the probe and drogue capability.
Yeah, is that right? Eh?
But this will live on, and if people have questions after the fact because they haven't been able to join it, then we'll respond to that.
Yeah, I was really surprised actually after I did my first live broadcast at how many views it ended up with about 550 views fairly quickly, which was interesting. So let me jump to another thing. Canada's military procurement system. I did a video on that the other day, and I kind of lost it a little bit at the start of it. Said, am I the only Canadian that thinks military procurement system in Canada is completely, I think I used the term effed up. But what are your thoughts on that? Military procurement just in general?
So that's a great question. And the great success story for Canadian military procurement, which went through an enormously difficult process, was the F-18. So that was by far the best acquisition that Canada's ever made. It was absolutely incredible. It was a huge success story, not just militarily, but financially as well. We had enormous financial offsets from producing that airplane.
Right.
Now, we have already enjoyed financial offsets from the F-35 because we bought into the program very early on. So we have already had Canadian companies producing parts for the F-35. So this will continue. Now, on the dark side of military procurement, let's talk about the F-5, which I flew for 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
So it was the dumbest airplane that they could have ever bought. It was bought as a close air support airplane for the Army, and it was probably the worst platform. Like, they couldn't have chosen a worse platform for close air support. It had no fuel, it had no weapons capabilities. It was a very small wing, it couldn't turn, but we bought it for political reasons. It was being produced under license in Quebec.
I think the best cast machine that I've ever seen is the A-10.
Absolutely.
I don't know anybody could argue the point that the A-10, given that it's slightly slower speed, its agility, the weaponry that it could carry, the 30 millimeter gun alone was enough to scare the bejesus out of you if you were in the same kind of fighting airspace as A-10s. And it's unfortunate. That would have been cool if we'd acquired A-10s for CAS.
Oh yeah, but this was in the 1970s. The A-10 was far, far away, but we could have bought the A4 or the A7, which would have been far, far better.
Yeah, yeah.
And the A4 ended up as a very good air-to-air platform, which the U.S. Navy aggressors used as an aggressor airplane. And I fought against the A4, and it, in the Hornet, and it was a really tough fight.
Yeah, it would be a tough fight, and I always liked the A4. The only thing I didn't like about the A4 is, my stature. I'm 6'3" and 220. Well, I used to be 220. I'm 250 now, but I don't think I would have fit in the A4. So that was the only strike against the A4 as far as I was concerned. But I mean,
no, you would have fit. You would have fit in. I mean, Burner, Sean Byrne.
Yeah, Burns,
he's probably the same height as you, and
yeah.
he got checked out in the A4. So.
Oh, okay. I know the Blue Angels flew the A4 for a little while, but I think the
Yeah.
A4 was the transition airplane before they went on to the Hornet, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a point made by in the comments: 2 engines over the far north is better than 1, and
Absolutely.
yeah, it's hard to argue that point. The only argument against that point is the same argument that was used about airliners going from 4 engines to 2 engines over the Atlantic. And basically, the same as flying the PC-12 with a single engine turboprop. And Orange Air Ambulance, I know for a fact, flies PC-12s in the far north all the time. And the way you get by that is the reliability of the engines as time has progressed. And so you can make the argument that one engine is potentially just as safe as well. Hard to say just as safe, but it's certainly safe. And you've got a way out, I guess, if you really need it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So the Gripen, I think it's got the Hornet engine, the F404.
I'm not sure if it's a 404, but I'm pretty sure it's a GE engine.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I've talked to people about is they say we should get the Gripen because that'll knock the United States out of the equation. And I correct them and say it doesn't knock the United States out of the equation because you need a GE engine in it. It's not designed to handle a Rolls-Royce engine.
Yeah.
And if you want to put a Rolls-Royce engine in it, you're going to have to redesign the entire aircraft. So it's not just a matter of swapping one for the other.
But it's not just that, Mac. It's also about a thing called ITARs. Are you familiar with ITARs?
No, go ahead. Oh, you just dropped out. Oh, there you go. You're back. I've lost your volume. You've lost your mic, Bones. No, I haven't got you. Why don't I take you off stage and maybe you can bring back in with another. I'll take you off and then come on back in by clicking the link again. And we'll see if anybody else would like to join me on stage here while you're gone. So Bones has had a little bit of trouble with his microphone. Maybe he'll get that sorted out, and we'll see if we can invite him back. So we've been talking about the difference between the F-35 and the Gripen so far on the podcast. If you'd like to join me, Andrew, go ahead and click the link, and you can actually ask the questions face-to-face instead of just in the comments. Be happy to talk about Snowbirds, F-35, Gripens, Hornets, or any other questions anybody may have on military aviation. So, Bones, we'll give you another try here and see if we can get your mic working again. Give it a try. Can you hear me, Tony? Looks like we've lost Bones, and Andrew doesn't seem to want to come on camera with us, so it's just up to you and I, Bones. Give it one more shot to see if you can hear me and see if I can hear you. No, it doesn't appear that, no, haven't got you. So I'm going to take you off if you want to sign right out and maybe hit the link again, and we'll see if we can get StreamYard to work for us. Okay, so that was Tony Ledgem, Tony Bones Ledgem. He longtime pilot with the Canadian Armed Forces, great background. I see a question now on the F-47 from at Pope-Q. And if at Pope-Q would like to join me, you can go ahead and click the link and I can put you on stage and we can talk about the F-47. So I've put the link there. It's the StreamYard link, and that'll bring you up on the podcast. Till then, we'll see if Tony's mic's working again. We'll get him on stage. Hey, Tony, try it again. Yeah, you're loud and clear again.
Yeah, so what happened was I had an inbound call from Messenger, and that kicked me off StreamYard, and I had to exit and re-enter StreamYard. So these are the problems with StreamYard. Unfortunately, it's a great platform, but it's got some issues.
I think what I need to do is just be straightforward with viewers and tell them, give them a few directions in my first comments to say, turn on, because I've got myself on a do not disturb mode. I've closed all my other applications, so specifically so I don't get bumped.
Yeah.
And it's just those kinds of little technicalities we're working
Yeah.
through. So I had an interesting question while you were gone. There's looks like someone at Pope-Q said F-47.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about the F-47. I'm interested to know what you know about the F-47. I don't think anybody knows much about it at this point.
Well, so this is the projected 6th generation fighter to replace the F-35 and the F-22.
Right.
And do you know why it's called the F-47?
I know exactly why it's called the F-47. So,
yeah.
But the question is the F-47 going to be something that's going to replace the F-22 and the F-35 and do a capable job? And what's it going to bring to the table that we don't already have?
Yeah, so it is projected to be a 6th generation as opposed to the F-35 and the 22, which are 5th generation. So this is the next iteration. And
what defines forgive my ignorance, but what defines the difference between a 5th generation and a 6th generation? I mean, I know when we go from Cat 4 to Cat 5, you're obviously talking stealth technology, sensor fusion, those kinds of issues. But what's the 6th generation bringing to the game that the 5th generation doesn't have?
And that's something that's not very well known, and I don't know it either. But one of the potential things is the electrical generation power so that it can use laser weapons. So lasers need huge amounts of electrical generation, and rather than using missiles, they'll use lasers to shoot down ballistic missiles and drones and that kind of stuff. So that's a very broad brush idea for me. I'm not even sure that's correct, but that could be one of the issues. And then there's all kinds of other things, the stealth and the 360-degree radar, LiDAR, IR.
I imagine the other thing that's probably coming into the game now is the control of drones and how many drones are going to be your wingman out there. So I can imagine. I know how difficult it was just in the Hornet to take into account all of and get your situational awareness and keep your situational awareness. So with that kind of sensor fusion with other drones and things about you, I know China's working on things like that, and I've seen some articles on some of the Chinese aircraft and the I can envision the human manned aircraft launching their companion drones out and having a drone v drone fight out in front of the manned aircraft. So it'd be interesting to see how that evolves.
And that's a great point, man, because the other thing is that, depending on how the drones are controlled, the lower the distance from the control element to the drone is very important, because that decreases the possibility of interception. So if you can have a forward control element like an F-35, which is low observable, then the communications are lower power, which have less possibility of interception.
Right. Okay.
So it's one thing to control them via satellite, which they've done in Afghanistan. You've got guys sitting in Las Vegas that are controlling drones in Afghanistan, but it's very easy to intercept those signals. But if you've got somebody that's within 300 miles of the drones, it's far less easy to intercept those communications.
Yeah, I've got, there's a comment saying controlled via quantum tech. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I know we've been talking about battle space integration for years. One of the concerns that I have at this particular point is when I watch what's going on in Iran and what's going on in the Ukraine, and I see the focus on drones, drone warfare in particular. So drone and robotic warfare. I mean, really, you've got a country like Iran has been holding the U.S. at bay with drone technology. You've got the Ukraine holding the Russians at bay with drone technology. And I don't see Canada moving down that path where we're looking at just commercial drones and how can we easily change those into military weapons. And I think that's a problem.
You're absolutely right. Like, what a cheap solution to a difficult problem. And why has Canada not moved forward in this? And well, so let's go back to the Air Force mentality. You know, like, we are still living in a Cold War Air Force in Canada.
Exactly.
They don't want to have unmanned aircraft. They're very reticent about that.
Yeah, I
But
agree
they
with you.
have
I mean, and I look at, I've got a number of drones that I operate myself, and they're largely DJI drones because North America is not producing a lot of drones that are commercially available. And I just, for me, if I was the government, and maybe not instead of, but along with spending money on things like F-35s and other aircraft assets like that, I'd be launching money into R&D programs to come up with killer drone solutions that we could use if we had to deploy somewhere. Because, I mean, the defense of North America, I absolutely see your point where F-35s make sense for that. For a coalition joining in the future, do we really want to send a six-pack of F-35s, or would we rather send a regiment that it was equipped with killer drones of some sort? And you can take your pick from what you see in the Ukraine or anywhere else. I'll just put a plug in for those that are joining us now. If you want to come on camera and mic with us and join the discussion, we'd be happy to have you join us. Just click the link and it'll put you into the waiting room, and then I'll bring you on stage and you can join the discussion. So what are your thoughts on the drone situation, Tony?
So here's another thing. We have a huge landmass in Canada. There's no way that we can patrol it with manned aircraft. So we absolutely have to have drones. And there are drones out there that have greater than 24 hours of capability with radar and IR sensors that can see all kinds of things that radars can't because of the radar horizon, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that Canada absolutely needs to get on board with.
Yeah, it's funny, because when I watch from Transport Canada's point of view, I was saying to my wife the other day that Transport Canada went in the drone world from the sublime to the ridiculous. Five years ago, 6 years ago, I got my basic drone license, and it was a matter of writing a quick test, and it was, I think, 50 questions, and I thought, well, I'll be able to do this without studying, and so I wrote it, and then it said, would you like to do the advanced drone test? And I'm like, well, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And I think I missed it by 1 percentage point because there were a few questions that were drone specific that I hadn't studied for. But then last summer, I decided I would re-up the advanced. So I studied a little bit, got the advanced. And then I went to I decided I'd get the level 1 complex drone license. And to get it, you need a 20-hour ground school course. So I wrote to Transport and said, I've got an ATPL, I got 6,000 hours. Can I get a buy from the 20 hours?
A waiver.
Yeah, a waiver. The answer was absolutely not. And having done the 20 hours of ground school, I now understand why the answer was absolutely not. Because the level 1 complex ground school and test, and then in order to get the advanced now, you have to actually do a flying test with an authority figure who's been granted that capability.
Sure.
I've actually managed to get to the point where I could be a trying to remember the word for it, basically a test authority to approve guys getting their advanced license.
Yeah.
So I had to do a test with the advanced license and the level 1 complex. And in both cases, the level 1 complex final job that you have to do on the course was it was about a 20-page document where you had to do a mission survey and mission for a BVR drone operation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hang on, you got to explain to your audience what BVR means.
Oh, beyond visual range. Sorry about that. Good point. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but like I said, I think transport went from a little bit to holy cow. And now my understanding is some of the regs are about to change again and make it a little more difficult again. I'll just put a plug out there. I know there's a few viewers watching. If you'd like to join Tony and I on screen, just go ahead and click the link. It's it's the StreamYard link. It's https ://StreamYard.com and then some letters and numbers. So we're going to try and make this Tuesday night at 7 o'clock a regular podcast, Tony, and we'll try and get some of the other guys from the aviators to join us on here. And
absolutely, yeah.
I thought your idea earlier.
This is great, Ian. Like you're doing a great job, and from the other guests that you've had on your show, we can really progress with this. And as I probably told you on text, I don't know if you saw it, but if we could get Jeff Beckett on, he would provide an incredible inspiration to the whole Hornet story in Canada.
Yeah, well, and I know I thought you had an interesting point when you said we should get some like minds together. We could put a group of F-5 guys together, a group of Hornet guys together. We could get the Bagotville team together for a little bit and have Alf was mentioning some names today that from history that I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
So that was cool. We could bring some Moose Jaw instructors together and some then get varying Snowbird guys on there. So I think it would be cool. Thanks to Sulex 723. It's only a matter of time before your channel starts to grow exponentially, man. So that's cool. I think it's a cool way for us retired pilots from the military in order to have a vehicle with which to communicate what it's like to be in the military as a pilot, and also allow people to ask us questions about aviation and flying and just various things like that.
So one thing that we didn't get to on our last podcast was my follow-on career with Top Aces.
Yeah, go ahead and dive into that for a little bit.
Yeah, so this was a great experience. So I went through a very difficult period with Air Canada. I joined them in July of 2000, and then 9/11 hit, and I realized that my career was in great jeopardy. And I applied to go back to the Air Force, and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm a highly qualified Hornet pilot. I will be willing to sit alert in Trenton, whether I fly or not, but I will do this." And they said, "No, if you want to be an instructor on the Texan in Moose Jaw, we'll take you back." And I said, "Are you kidding me? Like, are you fucking kidding me?" That's what they offered me. Yeah.
That's brutal.
So anyway, this is just the bureaucracy that we go through in the Canadian Armed Forces, and it's crushing. It's absolutely crushing.
Well, there were years in the military where you could see at the career manager briefing that there was this bubble and it was continually moving to the right year in, year out, and that there was going to be this mass exodus of pilots at some point in the future. And I remember them paying pilots to get out at one point, and 2 years later they were in a pilot shortage and couldn't find enough pilots. And so there's been years and years of mismanagement by the top military leadership.
Yeah.
And I think, frankly, that the real reason that the Snowbirds are going into a stand down has got nothing to do with the aircraft. I think the Snowbirds are being stood down because they want to take the people that are in the Snowbird squadron and redeploy them elsewhere in the military because they're so hard up for personnel. And,
really?
Yeah,
you really think it's that bad?
I think it's at least that bad.
Holy shit!
And
well, that's unbelievable, unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, and see, one of the hidden problems in there is, let's say you've got 85 to 100 technicians on the squadron.
Yeah.
Those guys are settled in Moose Jaw. And so if you say suddenly, you know what, we're going to redeploy you to Cold Lake or Baggaville or wherever else in the military needs personnel, many of those guys will take the exit door and get out and get a job with Bombardier or whoever the next NFTC organization happens to be, rather than leave Moose Jaw. So they'll end up with maybe a 40% solution at best. And I had an interesting comment that I flashed up on the screen there. Let's get the RCAF command staff on this chat and see what they have to say.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So well, I'll give you another great story.
Yeah.
So my first tour in the Air Force was on the F-5 in 434 Squadron, and they had recently been deployed from Cold Lake to Baggaville.
Right.
So most of the technicians were from Baggaville. They weren't from Cold Lake. And these technicians were voodoo guys, right, because they had kicked out 410 Squadron to go be the Hornet OTU. So these were voodoo technicians. But they, you know, to be a technician is far more easily transferable than to be a pilot. Okay?
Right.
So this was not a big issue. But then, 2 years later, they sent 434 Squadron to Chatham. And the technicians, who were all francophones from the Saguenay, were not very happy to go to Chatham.
No, it's a similar situation now. If they try to redeploy these guys from 431 Squadron in Moose Jaw, then the guys might not want to leave. They might not want to go anywhere. I'm just going to put
the point that I'm trying to make to you is that the technician trade is far more easily transferable than the pilot trade.
Yeah, yeah. If the individuals want to actually go.
Well, but guess what? We're in the military, all right?
Yeah, that's true.
You do what you're told to do.
You do what you're told to do, or you take the exit. And,
exactly.
And then it depends on kind of where you are in your career. So I'll just put another plug out there. In fact, I'll put the invite up because I noticed a few other folks are joined. I'll make sure that I take the link and put it in the comments. If you want to join and actually ask some questions in person, just turn your camera and your mic on. Don't worry, when you first join, you're in the offstage area. You're not live right away until I tell you you're live. So I find people are a little reticent to come on screen, but Bones, you and I always seem to have a good discussion. So you know who got in touch with her? I saw a post of is Marv McCauley.
Oh yeah, love the man, love the man.
Marvelous. I haven't seen Marv for a number of years now, and Marv and I were on initially we were on the same flying course in Moose Jaw. He ended up back course, I believe, for reasons that I'll leave Marv to talk about. And then he and I ended up in Trenton together. He was on the Buffalo OTU when I was on the Herc OTU.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he was finding the Buff OTU was relatively straightforward. And so he would finish his studying in about 40 minutes after supper and
come to go drinking.
Come knocking on my door. And of course, I was up to here trying to figure out how to fly across the Atlantic as a pilot with 200 hours of flying time under my belt.
In a 4-engine airplane. Yeah.
And I kept trying to tell Marv, this is considerably more difficult than I thought it was going to be, and I'm not really sure I should be going for beers with you. But anyway, we'd end up having beers. So Marv and I spent quite a bit of time together there. So I'm going to see if I can get Marv to agree to do an interview on the Above and Beyond channel as well.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll reach out to Beck, see if I can get Beck. I'm not sure he's on social media though.
Not so much, but I'll send you his details, and maybe we can lure him into it. I'll send you the the link for our podcast together. And I just contacted him this afternoon actually, but he's busy with children and grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, getting back to Marv.
Yeah.
Do you know the story of his brother?
I do know the story of his brother, but go ahead and relay it.
So, you know the story about the box top crash?
I do. I remember John Couch. I want to say it was the aircraft captain on that one.
And John Couch was on OGT with us in 434 in Bagotville, so I knew him.
I remember John as well.
Yeah, and I was shocked when I heard what happened, and it was a horrible, horrible accident. But what was even more incredible was the efforts that the search and rescue folks went to get to that crash site, because it was a blizzard.
It's unbelievable.
They were well outside their limits for a parachute drop, but they said, "Hey, guess what? We're going to do this."
Yeah, Marv's brother, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the StarTechs that parachuted in, wasn't
he? Yeah, I think he was like a chief warrant officer. He was like the head guy.
Yeah, I know. I think he was at least a warrant officer, and I know I'm pretty sure he was the head guy. But yeah, they did an amazing job of that. The Herc community back in the day when I was flying Hercs, we actually had we did have more accidents than the fighter community. The fighter community had a few, but just before I got to 435 Squadron, so a little bit of a war story here. Just before I got to 435 as a 20-year-old impressionable young first officer, they had a LAPES drop with an American exchange officer on board. And what happened with LAPES is low altitude parachute extraction system. So that's where you start at 200 feet, you dump over, you end up at about 10 feet above the ground. And the first thing that happens is the drogue deploys at 200 feet. So the drogue shoots out the back, and then you release the load when you cross the first markers. And the main chutes come out and they pull up to 30,000 pounds of freight out the back of the aircraft, and it hits the ground. And that's how they did a lot of resupply in Vietnam, was using LAPES drops.
Yeah.
So what happened on this particular drop was the drogue chute deployed, but then the load released, but the actual chutes did not release. And so the load shifted, hung up in the main chutes. The aircraft pitched up, was out of center of gravity control, stalled, crashed, and killed all the guys on board.
No, I remember that very well. Yeah.
And then we had the midair, where we had two Hercs banged together. Our next American exchange officer was on that. And Dave Mahaffey, I don't know if you knew Dave. You remember Dave from pilot training?
Yeah.
Dave was just visiting Edmonton from Winnipeg at the time, and was a buddy of mine, but he decided to go along for the ride. And unfortunately, he was killed in that. And I had a bit of a narrow escape from that, because I was slotted to be in the number 2 aircraft in the right seat. And the day before the formation fly past for Canada, for the Air Force's birthday, the pilot leader came to me and said, we're going to replace you with Kevin Kennedy, because he's more, even though he's less experienced on the Herc, he's more experienced pilot. So we're going to put Kevin in your place, and you're going to take his place at the officers' mess for the mess dinner. And so Kevin went along on the ride, and I'm here, and he's not, unfortunately. He was involved in the midair.
Yeah.
Sad times.
No, I'm very up to speed on what happened there. And
yeah,
I mean, as you know, as a fighter pilot, when you do a battle break, you have to keep track of everybody in front of you, and you know what happened with the C-130.
Well, and the odd part there is it was an ex-Snowbird guy that was flying the number 2 aircraft, and I know from experience that when you bank a Herc more than 30 degrees, you can't look out the top, not like you can in a canopy in a fighter. The windows just aren't back far enough, and so you would lose visual on that. It'd basically be a trust maneuver if you were going to pull something.
Exactly, but you have to follow the brief profile, right?
Exactly, yeah, and I think we both know what went on there. Anyway, so going forward from that, we get our next American exchange guy, who's becoming LAPES qualified, and the aircraft in order. So 329 was the aircraft for the first LAPES accident. Then 330 and 331 were involved in the midair. And I remember I went up for our new American exchange officer. He was getting LAPES qualified. They put me in the right seat. We were in aircraft 332, which was the next one sequentially.
Oh, jeez.
And if you have ever been on board where there's a crew briefing and you want to hear a quiet group of guys, that was it. Because there was a lot of nervous bodies on that airplane, and
I can totally understand that. Yeah,
I got out of the airplane, almost felt like kissing the ground. It was like, okay, we survived. That's good. He can go on, and he finished the rest of his tour uneventfully. We stopped killing American exchange pilots for a change. There's an interesting comment from an ex-Army individual. I think I love hearing pilot stories, and then all the whining about harsh living in the comments. So that kind of cracks me up. Be happy to have Army stories on here. I'm proud to say my son's a serving member of the RCRs at the moment in Petawawa. So he's a captain, and we have a rule now. He's 6'5" and about 210. And the rule is no hugging because it hurts too much. I can't.
Hurts too much to you.
It hurts too much to me. I can't take it. So we'll see if anybody else wants to join us in the conversation. If anybody else wants to click in.
No, but getting back to that comment from the Army guy.
Yeah.
So when I was on 434 Squadron, our primary role was close air support.
Right.
So I have a huge appreciation for the Army, even though I have come off target when Willie Pete rounds were hitting on the target, which was supposed to be deconflicted by 30 seconds. Right. So they could have hit me. So I have issues, but like I get it. If the Army is pinned down on the ground and they can't call in artillery support, then their only option is for fast air. So that was our job, and we would do that. We would risk our lives for the Army. We would go in and hit targets.
Well, I remember, and there's another comment, someone looking to get into military aviation. It's great to hear from people who've been in a position I want to achieve. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here on the channel, is allow folks to get a little bit of an exposure to what we've been through. So I remember on Hornets taking a 9-line briefing for a close air support. Yep. And it being one of the most challenging missions, because one of the things you had to do was try and hit the time on target because you get I want to say a 6-minute hack, and it was 6 minutes ready hack. Yeah. And the 6 minutes included the time of flight of the bomb, so you had to take that into account if you were dropping from high level. And so you wanted to make sure that your countdown timer, and this is something that Beck would be able to hammer home, was you wanted to make sure that you had everything programmed correctly. And there was a lot going on in the cockpit when you were leading a 2-ship or a 4-ship, usually a 2-ship in CAS missions, I think. Tone?
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, because Beck was on exchange with the Marines. Yeah. And their primary job was close air support to the grunts on the ground. So that was really what they had to do, was to make sure that they supported the grunts. And their squadron was totally focused on that. And Beck brought that back to the Canadian Air Force. He said, hey, listen, there's a lot going on here. We're You know, we got the NORAD role, we got the NATO role, but the bottom line is we got to support our own troops on the ground here.
Yeah. I'd like to see if we can entice anybody else. Maybe Dragoon 120 would like to come on and chat. It's our Army friend in the comments.
Yeah,
And
Dragoon. Yeah.
yeah, it'd be interesting to talk to an ex Dragoon and just see where what the Army thinks of the Air Force. That's probably a loaded question. I'm not sure it's one we want to put out publicly. So
hey, I will defend anything. You know, like I have led a very good life, but I was 300 miles inside hostile territory on my own without any friendlies on the ground. And how many Army guys can say they've been through the same thing? So I will not be shy about talking to Army guys.
that was one thing that when we interviewed, I didn't think we got to cover enough. So we might have to set up another date at some point in the future where we talk about some of your combat missions, if you're willing to chat about them, because I think that would be interesting to people to hear that kind of thing. I just remember every time I went to war, I was on a ground job. I was in Gulf War One in ops in Qatar. I was in Sierra Leone off the coast of Africa aboard HMCS Illustrious as the Brits were fighting the rebels in Sierra Leone. And then I was in at PSAB during the first opening bit of the Afghan war where we were trying to hunt down Osama bin Laden. I was actually in the command post the night that we thought we'd caught him in Tora Bora the first time.
You thought, yeah.
We thought everybody was pretty excited that night, and
yeah.
And speaking of Cass, that was one of the sadder moments because that was one where I believe it was an American team ended up calling in a B-1 strike on their own position, and that was an oddity with the laser binoculars that they were using at the time. And it turns out that when they had a battery low level, and you press to get the laser finder, it actually gave you your own position as opposed to where the laser.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think the bone drivers actually asked, are you guys sure about this? Are you sure you want this?
It doesn't look right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's either 1,000-pounder or 2,000-pounder that they ended up putting down on the position, I believe. So I just had a colonel walk by me, tap me on the shoulder, and say, "Manic, you're CAS qualified, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And I got invited to the meeting, so we were discussing that. So if anybody wants to join us and actually come on mic and camera with us, you're more than welcome to join. And you just press the link that I put on, the StreamYard link, and you can join Tony and I.
But here's another great segue. So do you remember the blue on blue engagement in Afghanistan when the F-16s bombed the Canadians?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I was very connected with that whole situation. I had worked with that squadron. It was an International Guard squadron in Indiana, and we had been down there doing DACT. So I knew many of those guys, and they were great, great guys.
You need to explain DACT.
Yeah, dissimilar air combat training. So we were out there doing dogfight training, but they did both air combat and air to ground. And they were deployed over to Afghanistan, but they had previously been deployed over Iraq, which is basically a free fire zone. So
right.
in Iraq, there were no friendlies on the ground.
Right.
And if there's any issues, they would just drop bombs and kill whatever they saw. But in Afghanistan, there were friendlies on the ground. And unfortunately, some of those friendlies were Canadians. So they saw this ground fire. They thought it was surface to air fire. So this very aggressive pilot decided to roll in and drop his bombs, and he killed a bunch of Canadians.
That's Tarnac Farms we're talking about, isn't it?
Tarnac Farms, exactly.
Yeah. That was a sad situation. Anytime you get a blue on blue engagement, it's a horrible situation.
Yeah.
was one of my worst fears. We did an exercise out of Alaska one time, and we were carrying live munitions. And anytime you strapped live munitions on the jet, uh, I just felt like things ratcheted up a notch. It was different than dropping just a cement bomb on the Jimmy Lake Range in Coal Lake. Anytime you were elsewhere and you actually strapped live munitions on, I always felt like the tension went up a notch.
But here's the other thing. I mean, that's in a training environment.
Yeah.
But in a wartime environment, it's even worse, because if you drop your bombs on a mosque or a hospital because you screwed up,
Yeah.
and you chose the wrong target, or you didn't choose the right entry point, then now it's going to be on you, and you're going to be the guy that's responsible for this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was always in the back of my mind that whenever you were trying to identify any target, you wanted to make sure. And I'm not sure that viewers would appreciate what it's like. And I'm not sure the RCAF does this anymore. I mean, we used to fly at 200 feet above ground, 480 knots with a 540 ingress for target runs a lot of times. And then you're popping, and it could be just a 5-degree pop. So you're only getting up to about maybe 1,200 feet above ground, I think, if my memory serves. And then you're rolling on your back, pulling down, and you've got this delivery angle. And I'm not sure viewers would appreciate how quick that sequence is when you have to acquire the target and then loose your weapons and then make sure that you don't frag. You basically shoot yourself down with frag as you egress the target.
Yeah, so the low level bombing has virtually disappeared for very good reasons.
Yeah, I understand that.
But that doesn't make it any easier. So now we have high level bombing where you have to identify the target, and you've got very good target coordinates. You've got your FLIR. You may have a JDAM, which has got GPS guidance, but you got to make sure that everything is lined up before you press that button. And believe me,
Absolutely.
every time I press that button, I thought, "Oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Have I got everything lined up here?" Because the bottom line is, it's going to come down to me.
Yeah, yeah. So let's switch subjects for a second here. We've got a
Sure.
few minutes left. We're just about up to an hour, and had a few viewers join us. Let's talk a little bit about air to air and what it was like to fight the Hornet in an air to air environment against some various opponents, like, say, F-14s, F-16s, F-15s. And what are your thoughts on that? Just we share briefly.
Well, that's actually a pretty big question.
It's a
Yeah,
huge subject, I know.
but my experience goes back 40 years. So I was involved in the Hornet at an early stage in its career, and it was the King Khan.
Yeah.
So we had the same missile as the F-15, the AIM-9M, or the AIM-7M, sorry, and we had superior maneuvering capabilities to most of the airplanes.
Yeah, I
So
remember being part of that era as well.
yeah, so it was awesome, but things changed over the years.
Well,
The
the AMRAAM became the first obstacle to
Yeah,
our superiority for sure because we
yeah,
were so late getting the AMRAAM into the game.
yeah, yeah, and then the F-16 brought in the GE engine, which gave it superior capabilities to us in maneuvering.
Yeah,
So we started to slide back in the big picture.
yeah. I always enjoyed air to air, and I always used to whether it was realistic or not that you'd actually wrap up and engage somebody in a visual fight or not. I guess that was the question. If you got yourself that close, then probably something hadn't gone right in the BVR world, and whether you'd actually get in there. But Sticks and Stones was always a fun Friday afternoon event. I always enjoyed that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was always fun, but was it realistic? I mean, let's face it. you know, in the Cold War era, we were outnumbered in fighters, probably 10-1. So yeah, maybe you could beat this MiG-29 in a 1-to-1 flat scissors, but guess what? There's probably 8 of his buddies that are come in and shoot you.
Well, I always remember being taught when you're flying in an exercise like red flag or maple flag. That's another thing we could have a whole discussion. We could do a podcast on red flag or maple flag and what it was like to participate in those. Or I was actually maple flag ops officer and put together the packages for maple flag on a few years. But it'd be fun to talk a little bit more about what it was like to be in one of those big exercises where there was somewhere in the neighborhood of between 70 and 90 aircraft airborne. You'd have somewhere in the neighborhood of about, what would you say, Tony, 16 aggressors out there?
So you brought up a very good point. So 70 or 90 airplanes versus 16 or 19 aggressors, that is not representative of what would happen in the Cold War.
No.
It
no.
would have been the other way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one of the sayings I always revert back to is quantity has a quality all of its own.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so if you put enough MiG-21s out there, you're going to have a hard time keeping them track of all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I always remember flying, and I had to be careful. I was writing my novels, and that I see it's a shameless plug for my novels that I wrote, but I had to be careful because when I was writing them, I was writing a little bit about red flag and dreamland and what you can and what you can't talk about. But there's a lot of dreamland stuff that's already in the public domain, so you're okay to talk about dreamland. But I remember getting the briefing about dreamland and how you shouldn't step foot over that line. And if you did, I know we had one guy on our, not from our, it wasn't a Canadian, but it was one of the nationalities stepped over the line and was met at the bottom of his ladder by guys in dark suits and taken away for an interrogation and then sent home. So they took that pretty seriously.
Oh yeah, I've done many red flags, and we totally understood it. And in IFR conditions, I crossed the line into the box, and I got away with it. Yeah, and
Ooh.
I was so scared that I was going to be sent home. But they said,
Oh,
okay, well, we understand the situation. You did that, and you didn't see anything on the ground. So the big concern was that you would see
you'd
something on
see
the ground.
something on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course they told us don't point your radars there, and so I'm pretty sure every radar that's exactly where they went when you
Exactly. Yeah.
got airborne.
What's going on down there?
Oh, I wonder what I'll see down there if I point my radar down there. So,
Yeah.
well, listen, Bones, thanks for joining me. It's been fun talking again.
Hey, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this forum is good. I think we can promote it a little more. We'll get some more guys on board and see if we can do a Tuesday night podcast at 7 o'clock. What do you say?
Sounds good, my friend.
All right, buddy. I'll click you out, and then I'm going to just put a few closing comments, and then that'll be that. Thanks again, Tom.
All right. Have a
Cheers.
great night.
Yeah, you too. All right, folks. So again, Tony Bones Ledgem joining me here on the Ian McLean Above and Beyond channel for another podcast. And we're going to try and make this a regular Tuesday night event. I'll try and invite some more of my friends, my pilot buddies that are ex-Air Force. And I would encourage you to have any of your friends that are interested in military aviation or aviation in general and would like to join us. And don't be shy. Go ahead and click on the link that I put in the description and join us on screen, and we'll ask, we can answer some questions that you might have for us. So thanks very much for watching us this evening, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Thanks. Good night.